He wasn't a big screen idol, but his bravery was worthy of a Hollywood epic. Our number 13 unforgettable tragedy is the death of football star Pat Tillman.
Pat Tillman is the greatest sports triumph that I've ever seen and the greatest sports tragedy I've ever seen. It's hard to even talk about him without crying.
Pat Tillman was a rugged athlete with movie star looks. In attitude, he was part bruiser and part philosopher.
Even though he wasn't religious, read the Bible, read the Quran, read the Book of Mormon, so he was kind of a Renaissance guy off the field, even though he was a tough guy on.
In 1998, the football standout graduated with honors from Arizona State University. That same year, Tillman was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals in the 7th round.
He was a small linebacker, about 5'10", more known for how hard he hit, how hard he played. And he's the kind of guy, though, that could hit you, knock you down, help you back up, and give you a word of wisdom on his way back to the huddle.
On the morning of September 11th, 2001, the linebacker was in the locker room with his teammates.
If you go back to that 2001 season, the Twin Towers came down after the first game of the year. He was moved in a way that all of us were, but then he elected to handle it in a very different way.
8 months after the towers collapsed, 24-year-old Tillman turned down a new 3-year, $3.6 million contract with the Cardinals to enlist in the Army.
We all thought it was a joke. Nobody does this. Nobody leaves the NFL and joins the Army.
Pat was doing what he thought was right, and he wasn't looking for any laurels or any glory for doing it.
Pat volunteered for the Rangers.
For him, joining the Army wasn't good enough. He had to join the toughest fighting group, the group that's entrusted to find guys like Osama bin Laden, our meanest, most vicious fighters.
You would go through jump school, become a paratrooper, and then go through Ranger School, a very, very elite commando school that lasts approximately 60 days. You could have 280 people in a class. There may be 80 people standing there on the final day.
Pat didn't join the Army alone.
Pat and Kevin Tillman were considered inseparable. His brother Kevin decided to join him. He was taken up with the fervor of the fight.
Together, the brothers were deployed to Iraq in March 2003.
In Iraq, his unit was responsible for doing small unit patrols, raids, recons, and ambushes, but more importantly, looking for Al-Qaeda.
After his first tour, Pat returned home.
Pat Tillman gets home from Iraq. We think, okay, he's going to be here. He'll finally get back into society. But no, he decides he's going to go back to the front lines. And this time, he gets sent with the elite Rangers to Afghanistan. For Pat Tillman, it was like getting taken in the first round by the Dallas Cowboys.
On April 22, 2004, Pat came face-to-face with the enemy.
Corporal Tillman's platoon was ambushed with small arms and mortar fire at about 7:30 p.m. local time while conducting combat operations in the vicinity of Khoust, Afghanistan.
Well, the first reports were, of course, that he had died as a result of enemy fire. It was only as the story began to be investigated that we realized there was a lot more to it.
A report issued by the Department of Defense Inspector General led to the discovery that Tillman was a victim of friendly fire.
The term friendly fire is when, tragically, one friendly unit shoots at another friendly unit and kills somebody.
There was an enemy he was confronting, but soldiers behind him didn't see the smoke signal, didn't see what they should have to realize that there was a member of their team up in front of them, and apparently he was caught in that fire.
No sports hero has ever represented this country better than Pat Tillman, yet he was killed because one of his fellow American soldiers thought he was the enemy.
According to the Inspector General's report, that information was kept secret for nearly 5 weeks.
It wasn't until after his memorial service that the family learned that perhaps he'd been shot by one of his fellow soldiers. His own mother did not know how he died, and that is just despicable.
In the end, the Inspector General report found officials had failed to comply with applicable standards for investigating friendly fire deaths.
To wait a month before the Pentagon released the information that the facts demonstrated clearly it was friendly fire was unacceptable.
The bare minimum we owe our soldiers and their families is the truth. That didn't happen for Pat Tillman. The government violated its most basic responsibility.
Instead of a military funeral, Tillman's family followed Pat's wishes. His ashes were scattered over the Pacific Ocean in California near his boyhood home.
It was typical of him that he wanted to go back to the land where he came from. He wanted to rest among his people, and he didn't want to be honored or lauded or praised as anything other than just a guy trying to do his job.
In honor of the fallen veteran, both the Arizona Cardinals and the Sun Devils at Arizona State retired Tillman's numbers.
Everyone remembered him, even if they'd never seen him play, and it showed that he was really a part of the NFL and a part of this country. This was not just a great football player. This was a great human being.